Hi everybody, this is Jean-Paul from the band Clutch, and you are watching Artisan News.
First thing that I did was buy a pack of smokes, checked into a motel and consult my horoscope. Sitting on the bed with a briefcase in my hand, patiently awaiting.
Perfect. So first off, you're at the Rockin' Derby. What are your thoughts on it? Who are you excited to see?
Corrosion and Conformity, one of my favorite bands. We're on tour with those guys. Most of the time, though, they play before us, so I'm usually practicing, warming up, so I don't get to see them. Tonight, they play after us, so I'm looking forward to that.
And your new album, Psychic Warfare, it is real, and it's out now. But what can you tell me about the making of that album? What were some of the hardest parts about making it?
Well, we started writing that record right after we released Earth Rocker, and we experienced a lot of success on Earth Rocker. That was a good record for us in a lot of ways. I think that when we got into the jam room to start writing new songs, we knew that we had set a new high watermark for us, and so it was challenging. We spent a lot of time going through a lot of material. Most of the stuff that we do gets cut, for every, say, 10 riffs that we come up with, maybe one of those is going to end up on the record, and maybe not even that. So we were very picky this time around, and we rehearsed the material a lot before we actually got into the studio. And even while we were in the studio, we played a lot. And the reason for that was what we really wanted to give sort of a more organic vibe to the thing.
And what inspired the track, Son of Virginia?
That song actually started as an acoustic song. A few years ago, we were doing some sort of acoustic sets. We'd put a little interlude inside the set, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 songs. And one of those songs was actually a song called Abraham Lincoln that originally appeared on Strange Cousins from the West. And we reworked those songs almost entirely, and Abraham Lincoln was one of the ones that was most different from the original recorded version. The bass line for that tune actually sort of morphed itself into what became Son of Virginia. So it's kind of interesting, the tunes are they're kind of they sometimes sort of cannibalize one another, and that's a good example of that. So that's where that tune came from.
And based on watching some of the background videos, it seemed like you guys recorded the bulk of the album and then you recorded the vocals after. Is that how you guys usually do it, or is that something different?
Yeah, typically when we record a record, that's usually the case. I will say, though, that we thought a lot about the vocals going into the studio. By the time we actually went to record the songs, we had a very good idea of how the vocals were going to go. And more importantly, what the sort of style of the vocal was going to be, what the intent was going to be. So, as a drummer, I'm always listening for that lead voice, whatever that might be. In this case, it's a vocal. It could be a guitar solo. But my job is really to support that and make that lead voice sound as good as it can be. So being as familiar as we were with the material, with the vocal and the style, I think we were all better able to support that vocal. And then when Neil actually recorded it, it was ready and set.
And the video for Psychic Warfare is so deep, it's so dense, but the song itself is a powerhouse that kind of punches you in the face. It's over before you know it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan, if you can't tell. But what made you guys come up with that sort of aesthetic for the video?
Yeah. Well, we were lucky enough to work with Dan Winters again. So Dan Winters did the album layout. He did all the photography on that, and he did the video. We first worked with Dan Winters on our very first release on Transnational Speedway League. So he worked with us on that record and a couple records after that. So we became very close, and then we sort of split. We hadn't seen him for a long time. He became very, very busy. He's a very well-noted photographer. He's an amazing guy to work with, very inspiring to be around. It really blew me away to watch him work. He has a very small team of people that he works with, and really the video and the concept was very much his idea. We had a few ideas as well, but for the most part, we just showed up and we just kind of hung out at his place in Texas, and it was great. He's got a beautiful studio there. He's got honeybees and a beautiful workshop out back. It's really a fun place to hang.
Nice. And as a fan, hearing a short clip of Regulator on The Walking Dead is a huge deal for me. Even though it's just a short little thing. We said, are you guys fans of The Walking Dead? And was it a big thing for you, or was it just kind of like whatever?
It was definitely a big thing. And I was not familiar with the show prior to that. My wife had been watching it, and she said, you should watch this particular episode. And we did, and we were both surprised when we heard that. It was very exciting.
And you guys have been a band for 25 years. How do you feel you've evolved over that time? Can you believe it's been a quarter of a century?
I cannot believe it's been a quarter of a century. It's amazing. It's gone by very, very quickly. The evolution of the band has been a very sort of natural thing. When we got together 25 years ago, we wanted to make good recordings. We wanted to play good shows, and that's really what we concentrated on doing. Over the years that we've become better players, we've become better songwriters. We're better at being out here on the road. So it's an evolution. This is the very best job in the world, and I wouldn't do anything else.
And you guys have this funky little side project called Bakerton Group. How did you guys come to form that? How does it differ from your Clutch work, and can we expect anything from that in the future?
Well, the Bakerton Group is different in that there are no vocals. It's actually the four of us. It's kind of like our alter ego, instrumental alter ego. And we tend to experiment a little more. There's oftentimes things that come up musically that don't really fit into what could be a Clutch song. So we keep a hold of those things. And the last record we did was El Rojo, and that came out, it's been a few years now, I think 2010. We will do some more Bakerton Group stuff, but right now the Clutch thing is just, we're just riding the psychic warfare wave right now, so we'll be busy with that for a while.
And you guys are on tour right now with Lamb of God. How do you feel their fans are responding to you guys, and how do you feel vice versa with your fans as far as that?
Great. It's a very, very good bill. Our fans, I think, have come to expect us to play with different kinds of bands, and that's been like that from the very beginning. In the early days, we played with Bad Religion and Sepultura and Prong and Monster Magnet and Marilyn Manson, and we sounded very different than those bands. But each time we played in front of an audience, a few of those people would hear something. The music would resonate with them. And so they became fans, and they would bring friends next time. And so the growth has been a very slow, very organic kind of a thing, and it has a lot to do with us playing with these different kinds of artists.
And when you guys aren't on tour, could you give us a look into, just a regular day in the life of John Paul?
Well, I practice drums. In the summertime, I'll spend time in the garden. My wife and I have a garden in the backyard, and we enjoy doing that. And a lot of times I'm over at the warehouse. We run our own label. We have all of our gear stored there. So, a couple times a week I'll be over there either waiting for deliveries or shipping out records. And I enjoy doing that too.
So, man, what's coming up in the next 6-7 months for you guys?
A lot of touring. We're going to be out on this thing until mid-June. We'll take a short break and then go overseas to Europe. We'll do some festivals over there. We're excited about that. And come back to the States and more touring.
Thank you so much.
No problem.